The moment your life turns inward, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, people of purpose and destiny, there comes a moment in every person's life when the noise around them finally grows quiet, when the world stops shouting its opinions, its demands, its complaints, when everything outside fades away, and you are left with only one voice, your own. And in that moment, life asks you the most defining question you will ever face. Who are you choosing to become? Not who your past shaped you to be, not who circumstances forced you to be, not who others judged or predicted you to be, but who you choose, in this very moment, to become. I want to begin with a story. A young man once came to me exhausted by life. His dreams had faded, his confidence had dried up, his shoulders curved under the invisible weight of disappointment. He looked at me and said, "Duta Chu, tell me why nothing changes for me. Tell me why my life keeps repeating the same story." I looked at him and replied gently, "Because you keep repeating the same author." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I said. "My friend, your life will not change until you change who is writing your story. And as long as you keep blaming the world, the past, the people, the conditions, you will never pick up the pen." He stared at the floor, and then something remarkable happened. He lifted his head, and for the first time in his life, he understood no one is coming to rewrite his destiny for him. No savior, no miracle, no lucky break. Only responsibility, the sacred, liberating moment when a human being finally says, "I am the captain now, and I refuse to drift." Tonight, I want to take you on a journey, 7 deep, powerful chapters, each one a revelation about responsibility, growth mindset, courage, and your future self. This is not just a speech, it is a mirror, a conversation with your highest potential, a message with your name carved into its heart. Let us begin. The day you stop blaming, you start becoming. There comes a moment in your life when the weight of your excuses becomes heavier than the weight of your dreams. A moment when the stories you've been telling yourself no longer comfort you. A moment when you realize that blaming others has not protected you, it has only imprisoned you. And in that moment, you stand at the doorway of your real transformation, because the day you stop blaming is the day you start becoming. Blame, my friend, is one of the most deceptive comforts we carry. It is soft, familiar, even soothing. It gives us a place to rest our disappointments. It allows us to shape our failures into a sculpture that points outward instead of inward. When life becomes painful, blame makes the pain feel justified. When progress stops, blame gives us a reason that feels safe. When dreams fade, blame reassures us that it was never our fault. But what we do not realize is that blame, though comforting, is quietly draining our power, our identity, and our future. You see, a person cannot grow while pointing fingers. You cannot expand while shrinking into your excuses. You cannot climb while holding onto the rope that binds you to your past. And yet, many people spend years, sometimes decades, walking through life with the same sentence living on their lips. "I would be more. If only my parents had supported me. If only the world were fair. If only the economy were better. If only someone believed in me. If only I had a different beginning." But the truth is, your beginning is not responsible for your becoming. The greatest people in history were not handed the perfect start. They simply made a courageous decision to stop blaming what they cannot control and start mastering what they can. Responsibility does not ask you to erase your past. It asks you to rewrite your future. Responsibility does not deny that life has been unfair. It simply refuses to let unfairness be the author of the rest of your story. When you stop blaming, something remarkable happens. You begin to see your own reflection clearly, not the reflection shaped by other people's mistakes, not the reflection shaped by circumstances, but the reflection shaped by your potential. For the first time, you understand that the most powerful force in your life is not the world around you. It is the choices within you. You realize that you can choose your response. You can choose your attitude. You can choose your habits. You can choose your beliefs. And with every choice, you write a new page in the book of your becoming. There is a great dignity in taking responsibility. It is not a confession of weakness. It is a declaration of strength. It means you are mature enough to stop hiding behind the shadows of your past. It means you are brave enough to face the mirror without fear. It means you are no longer waiting for the world to change in your favor. You are choosing to change yourself in the direction of your destiny. Let me tell you something powerful. When you stop blaming, you regain the authority to change. And authority is the birthplace of transformation. Think of a ship drifting in the ocean. As long as the captain blames the currents, the winds, or the storms, the ship will drift endlessly. But the moment the captain grabs the wheel and says, "No more drifting," the ship aligns itself with a new direction. The waters may still be rough, the winds may still be strong, but the ship is no longer a victim of the waves. It becomes the master of its course. And you too must become the captain of your own direction. When you stop blaming, you awaken the part of you that has been asleep. The part of you that knows you were meant for more. The part of you that refuses to let life pass by unexplored. The part of you that understands that your future is sculpted by your willingness to take ownership of it. And you stop saying, "I haven't yet." You stop saying, "Someone should help me." And you start saying, "I must help myself." You stop saying, "If only things were different." And you begin saying, "Things will be different because I am be different now." The moment of responsibility is the doorway into greatness. It is the birth of a new identity. It is the moment you stop waiting for permission and start creating your own path. And from that moment on, life no longer happens to you. Life happens through you. This is the beginning of your becoming. This is the day you reclaim your power. This is the day you rise. Your life changes the moment your standards change. There comes a time in every person's life when they realize that wishing is not enough. Hoping is not enough. Dreaming is not enough. You can hope for change. You can pray for change. You can beg for change. But unless your standards rise, your life remains exactly where it has always been. Because your life, my friend, will always rise or fall to the level of what you are willing to accept from yourself. Most people do not suffer from a lack of ambition. They suffer from a lack of standards. They want more, but they are willing to tolerate less. They desire progress, but they accept procrastination. They crave transformation, but they settle for repetition. And nothing changes until you change the level of life you demand from yourself. Your standards are the boundaries you draw around your destiny. They are the invisible lines that tell your life, "This is who I am now. This is how I show up. This is the quality I expect. This is the behavior I allow. This is the effort I give." Not occasionally, but consistently. When your standards are weak, your life becomes chaotic, uncertain, directionless. When your standards rise, everything in your life begins to align with the new identity you've chosen. You see, your standards shape your habits, and your habits shape your future. When a person has high standards, discipline is no longer a struggle. It becomes natural. It becomes a reflection of who they believe themselves to be. A person with high standards doesn't have to wake up every morning debating whether to do the right thing. They simply do it because it matches their identity. They are not trying to be disciplined. They are disciplined. They are not trying to be focused. They are focused. They are not trying to be resilient. They are resilient. When you raise your standards, you stop playing small. You stop saying, "This is good enough." You stop tolerating the behaviors that sabotage your growth. You stop giving energy to things that drain your purpose. You stop bending your life around excuses. And something extraordinary begins to happen. Life starts bending itself around your expectations. Most people think their circumstances shape their standards. But the truth is the complete reverse. Your standards reshape your circumstances. When you demand more from yourself, life eventually yields. The world reflects what you repeatedly demonstrate. If you elevate your behavior long enough, your environment has no choice but to elevate with you. Think of a person who decides, once and for all, that they will no longer live in emotional reaction. Suddenly they stop engaging in arguments. They stop wasting energy on negativity. They stop responding to people who try to pull them into old patterns. Why? Because their standards have changed. And as their standards rise, their peace rises, their relationships shift, their aura changes, their voice strengthens, their path clears. The world sees someone who is no longer easy to shake. They have outgrown the level of life they once accepted, or consider the person who raises their standards in their work ethic. Suddenly, they are not doing the minimum anymore. They are doing the meaningful. They are not waiting for opportunity. They are creating it. They are not hoping for excellence. They are practicing it. And soon enough, the world recognizes them, not because luck found them, but because their standards made them impossible to ignore. Your standards are the roots of your results. Change the root. Change the fruit. If you want a stronger life, create stronger standards. If you want a deeper life, create deeper standards. If you want a higher life, climb to higher standards. Responsibility means this: I will no longer allow myself to live at a level beneath my greatness. It means you stop negotiating with your lesser self. It means you stop lowering your potential for the sake of comfort. It means you stop accepting excuses from yourself, even the elegant ones that sound reasonable. Instead, you rise above them. You declare, I am done living at this level. I am done repeating these patterns. I am done being loyal to a version of myself that no longer fits the life I want. And when you make that decision, truly make it, everything changes. Not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. Because when you raise your standards, you send a message to your mind, your habits, your behaviors, and your future. I am becoming someone new. And the universe responds to identity. The world responds to conviction. Opportunities respond to preparation. Miracles respond to alignment. Your life will always match the level you place upon yourself. Raise the level, and life rises with it. This is the power of standards. This is the power of responsibility. This is the moment your future begins to shift. Your future is hiding inside your daily habits. If there is one truth that people underestimate more than any other, it is this: your future is not created by the big moments. It is created by the quiet, unnoticed, ordinary habits you repeat every single day. Your destiny is not shaped by what you do once in a while when motivation strikes, but by what you do consistently when no one is watching, when no applause is given, and when nothing dramatic seems to be happening at all. Your future is hiding not in your wishes, not in your dreams, not in your intentions, but in your daily habits. Most people believe that transformation requires a dramatic event, a turning point, a miracle moment. But in reality, transformation begins in the mundane, in the simple decisions, in the small disciplines, in the repeated choices that compound over time. Every great life you admire was built not by sudden leaps, but by steady steps. Steps taken day after day, even when the path felt slow, even when progress felt invisible, even when the results were nowhere to be seen yet. The problem is that human beings are addicted to immediacy. We want quick progress. We want instant change. We want visible results. When the results don't show up fast enough, we grow impatient. We question our path. We doubt our ability. And many people quit right at the edge of their breakthrough, not because change wasn't coming, but because their habits hadn't been given enough time to reveal their power. Think about this: every habit is a seed. When you plant a seed, nothing happens for a while. The soil doesn't shake. The ground doesn't glow. No one applauds the seed. There is no sign that anything is alive. But beneath the surface, roots are forming, strength is building, foundations are growing, and transformation is happening. Your habits work the same way. What you repeat in private will eventually be celebrated in public. If you stay consistent long enough, responsibility means taking ownership of your habits. It means looking at your daily life with honesty. It means asking yourself, do my habits match the person I want to become? Because your habits today are building the version of you that you will meet tomorrow. If your habits are weak, the future you create will be weak. If your habits are strong, the future you shape will be strong. You cannot wish for a stronger life while practicing weak habits. You cannot hope for a disciplined future while living an undisciplined present. You cannot pray for success while committing daily to the behaviors that create failure. Habits are the architects of your destiny, and your destiny is simply the accumulation of what you do consistently. Look around you. Every successful person you admire has habits that support their outcomes. Discipline is not an accident. Focus is not an accident. Consistency is not an accident. These are the results of intentional routines practiced long before success arrived. People do not rise to greatness because they are lucky. They rise because they built habits that made their rise inevitable. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to change everything at once. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to change your direction. One small habit, done daily, can transform the entire trajectory of your life. The key is not intensity. The key is consistency. A single glass of water doesn't hydrate you for life. A single workout doesn't make you fit. A single hour of reading doesn't make you wise. But repeat it long enough, and your life begins to expand in directions you never imagined. The habits that build you will feel difficult at first. They will challenge your comfort. They will stretch your discipline. They will require sacrifice. But remember, your habits are shaping your identity even more than your identity shapes your habits. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. Every time you show up when it's hard, you strengthen the muscle of resilience. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you teach your mind who is in control. And soon enough, something remarkable happens. The habits that once felt difficult begin to feel natural. The actions that once felt heavy become effortless. The discipline that once felt painful becomes empowering. Because you are no longer forcing habits. You are becoming the kind of person who lives them. Responsibility requires you to take your daily life seriously. It requires you to understand that your habits are either moving you toward your future or anchoring you to your past. Every day is a vote. Every choice is a direction. Every habit is a declaration of who you are becoming. So ask yourself, not with judgment but with clarity, what habits are stealing my future? What habits are building my future? What habits must be replaced? What habits must be strengthened? Your life is not waiting for a miracle. It is waiting for your consistency. Your future is not hiding in the dramatic. It is hiding in the daily. And when you take responsibility for your habits take responsibility for your destiny. This is how transformation begins. Not with noise, but with quiet discipline. Not with intensity, but with consistency. Not with wishes, but with habits. Your future is already forming. The question is, are your habits building the future you desire, or the future you fear? Responsibility means choosing growth over comfort. There is a quiet truth about life that many people never fully understand. Every dream you desire, every transformation you seek, every breakthrough you chase, lives on the other side of your comfort zone. And responsibility, the decision to own your life, your choices, your future, demands that you step out of comfort and step into growth. The two cannot coexist. Comfort protects what you already are. Growth reveals what you can become. Most people do not fail because they lack potential. They fail because they choose comfort. Comfort is soft. Comfort is easy. Comfort is familiar. Comfort whispers, Stay here. You don't have to change, you don't have to stretch. You don't have to risk being seen, being judged, being misunderstood, or being wrong. Comfort convinces you that safety is more important than purpose, that familiarity is better than expansion, and that staying where you are is somehow better than discovering who you could be. But growth, my friend, growth speaks a different language. Growth says, you were not made to remain the same. Growth says, there is more in you than you have ever allowed yourself to believe. Growth says, walk into the unknown, because that is where the person you are becoming lives. And the moment you take responsibility for your life, you stand at a crossroads. Do you choose the comfort of who you've been, or the growth of who you could become? Responsibility is not simply about owning your past. It isn't just about admitting mistakes or acknowledging your decisions. Responsibility is the courage to evolve. It is the willingness to shed the old version of yourself, the version shaped by fear, shaped by doubt, shaped by habits and beliefs that kept you small. Responsibility means saying, I will no longer stay limited by the life I outgrew. Growth is uncomfortable because it requires you to confront the parts of yourself you've avoided. It requires new disciplines, new choices, new thinking, new habits. Growth breaks the patterns of familiarity. Growth disrupts the routines that felt safe. Growth demands that you leave behind the identity that comfort created. And that can feel like a death, the death of the old you. But let me tell you something powerful. Every great transformation begins with a death and ends with a rebirth. The caterpillar must give up the comfort of crawling before it can taste the freedom of flying. The seed must break apart before the plant can rise. The diamond must undergo pressure before it shines. Nothing extraordinary rises without first leaving behind what is ordinary. And the same is true for you. When you choose growth over comfort, you choose strength over stagnation. You choose evolution over repetition. You choose destiny over familiarity. You begin to understand that your future self is calling you. And that call requires a level of courage your comfort zone can never provide. Comfort asks you to stay the same. Growth asks you to expand. Comfort asks you to avoid pain. Growth asks you to embrace purposeful pain. Comfort asks you to repeat your past. Growth asks you to rewrite your future. The people you admire, the ones who elevated their lives, the ones who transformed their stories, they did not choose comfort. They chose the discomfort of discipline, the discomfort of new beginnings, the discomfort of responsibility. But what they received in return was a life that comfort never could have offered them: confidence, resilience, clarity, purpose, achievement, depth. Let me share something deeply important. Staying comfortable feels safe, but it is the most dangerous thing a person can ever do, because comfort slowly kills potential. It kills dreams quietly. It drains ambition drop by drop until a person wakes up one day and realizes they are living a life far smaller than the one they were created for. Growth, on the other hand, feels risky at first, but it is the only path that leads to the life you truly desire. Growth introduces you to a stronger version of yourself. Growth expands your capacity. Growth deepens your character. Growth reveals strengths you never knew you had. Growth breaks you open so that you can rise higher, think deeper, and live fuller. And here is the beautiful truth: the discomfort is temporary, but the transformation is permanent. Every challenge you embrace, every discipline you develop, every fear you confront, every habit you rebuild, every limitation you break, is shaping you into someone you will one day be grateful to meet. Responsibility means you stop seeking the easy path and start choosing the path that grows you. It means you stop praying for comfort and start praying for strength. It means you stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to become better. It means you stop hiding behind excuses and start walking into the arena of your potential. So ask yourself, are you living to stay comfortable, or are you living to grow? Because comfort might make you feel safe, but it will never make you proud. Growth might make you uncomfortable, but it will make you powerful. And the moment you choose growth, truly choose it, life begins to open doors you once thought were locked. The world begins to respond to the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. This is responsibility. This is maturity. This is evolution. This is how your life changes. This is how you change. By choosing growth over comfort every single time. The responsibility to rise after there comes a moment in every person's life when the world expects them to stay down. Not because the world is unfair, though it often is, but because the fall looks convincing. It looks final. It looks like the end. And in that fragile moment, when the dust of disappointment settles on your shoulders, you begin to believe a dangerous story. Maybe this is where I stop, but step 5 reminds us of a truth that has rescued countless lives, including my own. Your responsibility does not end when you fall. It begins the moment you choose to rise. I've always believed that life reveals your character, not by the victories you celebrate, but by the valleys you walk through. Anyone can smile at a mountaintop. Anyone can clap when the results are good. But it takes a different kind of person, a builder of destiny, a guardian of inner strength, to stand back up when the world has every reason to count you out. Rising after a fall is not an act of luck. It is not an act of talent. It is not an act of privilege or chance. Rising is an act of responsibility, a sacred responsibility you hold toward the person you are meant to become. You must understand something. The world is not testing your weakness when you fall. It is testing your willingness to grow new strength. It is asking, what will you do with this pain? Will you let it define you, or will you let it refine you? Every setback carries with it a question only you can answer, and the power, the transformation, the rebirth, they all live in your answer. I recall a young man who once came to me, defeated by life. He told me, with tears running down his face, "Sir, I failed again. I don't know if I should keep trying." And I asked him a question he was not expecting. Who told you that your failure has the authority to declare your ending? Silence filled the room, because he suddenly realized it wasn't life that told him to stop. It wasn't people. It wasn't God. It was him. His belief in failure was more powerful than the failure itself. And the same is true for so many of us. You see, falling is not the opposite of success. It is a vital part of success. And when you take responsibility for your rise, something extraordinary happens inside you. Your courage expands. Your belief matures. Your perspective deepens. You begin to see the world through new eyes. Eyes that no longer panic at failure, but understand the profound role it plays in shaping destiny. I often say, pain teaches what comfort never will, and this is the essence of step 5. When you rise after a fall, you are not returning to who you were before. You are returning with wisdom, with resilience, with a fire that wasn't there previously. You become stronger not because nothing hurt you, but because nothing stopped you. You become wiser not because your path was easy, but because you learned from every stumble. You become bolder not because life spared you, but because you refused to surrender. Taking responsibility for rising means refusing to let excuses take root. Excuses are the stories we tell ourselves to protect our comfort. But comfort is a dangerous place to hide. It suffocates potential, it delays dreams, and it weakens courage. When you take responsibility for your rise, you stretch beyond the limits of comfort and enter the arena where growth actually happens. That alone sets you apart from the average mind. The truth is, there is always a price for rising. You will have to face your fears again. You will have to rebuild what broke. You will have to challenge the weakness inside you that whispers, "Stay down." But there is also a price for not rising, and that price is far heavier: regret, stagnation, the slow decay of dreams. Life does not punish the fallen. It punishes the ones who refuse to stand back up. My friend, let me speak to your heart directly. You were not created to stay down. You were not designed for defeat. There is something in you, deeper than your wounds, stronger than your fears, louder than your excuses, that is calling you back to your feet. Answer that call. Rise even if your knees shake. Rise even if your mind doubts. Rise even if you don't know what the next step looks like. Rise because there is a version of you waiting on the other side of this moment. A version stronger, clearer, wiser, and more powerful than you have ever been. Silent fight inside every human heart, ladies and gentlemen. There is a battle inside you right now. A battle quieter than thunder, yet louder than regret. A battle softer than whispers, yet heavier than your entire past. It is the battle between who you are and who you could be. Some people wake up each morning and feel it immediately. A tug, a tension, a quiet voice saying, "You were made for more." Others feel it only when life becomes still, in the moments between breaths, in the spaces between victories and failures. But all of us, at some moment, stand face to face with a version of ourselves that is stretching its hand forward and saying, "Come with me, there is more." Let me begin with a story. Years ago, a young man sat across from me after one of my seminars. He was shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of a question he carried inside for years. He said, "Dida, Ko, I'm living a life that feels too small for the person I know I'm supposed to become. Why do I feel like I'm losing a fight nobody can see?" I looked at him and said something I want to say to you today. Because the greatest battles are never fought on the outside. They are fought within the soul. You don't need an enemy to hold you back. You only need hesitation. You don't need chains around your hands. You only need doubt wrapped around your heart. So today, we are going to walk, not through theories, not through fancy words, but through the inner battlefield itself, through the fears that whisper, the dreams that call, the courage that sleeps, and the destiny that waits. This message is not about motivation. It is about awakening. It is about remembering. It is about rising. So let us step into the journey, not as listeners, but as warriors preparing for a transformation. The moment you realize you're living below your potential, there is a moment in every human life that arrives quietly, almost secretly. It rarely announces itself with trumpets or fireworks. Instead, it slips in through the cracks of your day, in the pause between your responsibilities, in the silence after a long night, or in the mirror, when you're finally honest with yourself, and whispers a simple sentence that carries the weight of destiny. You were meant for more than this. This moment is not loud, but it is powerful. It shakes something inside you. It awakens a hunger you thought had died, or maybe a dream you once buried, because it felt too big for your hands. And suddenly, even if you don't say it out loud, your soul begins to wrestle with a truth you didn't ask for, but can no longer ignore. The truth that who you are today is only a fraction of who you could become. For many people, this moment is uncomfortable, almost painful, because the realization that you're living beneath your potential is not a gentle realization. It's a confrontation. It confronts your habits, and your excuses, your routines, and the places where you settled. It asks questions that shake your certainty. Why did you stop dreaming? Why did you accept limitations that were never meant to be yours? Why did you choose survival over growth? But this discomfort is not punishment. It is invitation. It is the universe tapping you on the shoulder saying, "Wake up. There is more inside you than the life you're settling for." And once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. You can try to distract yourself. You can busy yourself. You can drown the voice with entertainment, noise, or old habits. But the truth will follow you. Because greatness has a long memory, and it remembers who you were always meant to be. Some people run from this moment their whole lives. They fear what it demands. They fear the responsibility of potential. They fear looking into the parts of their soul they've ignored for years. So they hide behind the phrase, I'm fine. This is enough. But fine is not the same as fulfilled, and enough is not the same as alive. You see, the moment you realize you're living below your potential is the moment life gives you a choice: remain comfortable or become extraordinary. And that choice is not theoretical. It shows up in your everyday patterns. It challenges who you've been and stretches you toward who you could be. It exposes every limitation you've adopted as identity and every dream you've labeled impossible, because fear convinced you it was safer not to try. But here is the deeper truth: this moment of realization is a gift. It is one of the rare moments in life when your inner world refuses to let you shrink. It demands that you look at yourself not through the lens of your past, but through the lens of your potential. It's the beginning of transformation, because awareness is the birthplace of change. You cannot fix what you refuse to see. You cannot grow where you refuse to be honest. And you cannot rise until you admit you are capable of rising. This moment challenges your comfort zone, because nothing extraordinary happens inside comfort. Comfort keeps you safe, but it also keeps you small. It gives you predictability, but it steals your possibility. And every person who ever became more than they once were had to stand exactly where you stand, in the space between the life they have and the life they know they're capable of building. That space is narrow, it is uncomfortable, but it is sacred, because it is the birthplace of every comeback, every breakthrough, and every personal revolution. To realize you're living below your potential means you're waking up. Your spirit is remembering its strength. Your heart is remembering its dreams. Your mind is remembering its power. And even if you feel behind, even if you feel late, even if you feel unprepared, understand this potential doesn't care about your past. It only cares about your willingness to rise now. So let this moment become a turning point. Not a moment of guilt, but a moment of awakening. Not a moment of shame, but a moment of calling. Because everything you desire, the confidence, the growth, the courage, the opportunities, the transformation, begins with this single realization: I was not created to stay here. And the best part, if you're feeling this moment right now, it means you are ready. It means you've outgrown where you are. It means the next version of you is already knocking. This is where the battle begins. This is where the rise begins. This is where the old you steps aside and the greater you starts to breathe. The fears that hold you to your current self. Fear is powerful, not because it shouts, but because it whispers. Not because it chains your hands, but because it convinces your mind to accept smaller dreams, safer choices, and predictable routines. Fear is the quiet jailer that keeps millions of people locked inside a version of themselves that no longer fits. And what makes fear so dangerous is not its strength, it's its familiarity. Fear feels like protection. Fear feels like caution. Fear feels like wisdom. But most of the time, fear is nothing more than the voice of the old version of you, begging you not to grow. Every time you try to take a step toward your potential, fear wakes up and walks into the room like an uninvited guest. Who do you think you are? What if this goes wrong? What if you're embarrassed? What if people talk about you? What if you fail and you can't recover? It speaks with such authority that you mistake it for truth. You begin to trust its questions more than your dreams. You begin to listen to its warnings more than your inner calling. Because fear does not come screaming, it comes disguised as reason. It makes excuses sound intelligent. It makes hesitation feel smart. It convinces you that staying where you are is safer than stepping into the unknown. But let me tell you a truth most people never understand. Fear is not there to stop you. Fear is there to test you. Every calling attracts resistance. Every destiny attracts doubt. Every dream attracts uncertainty. If you feel fear, it means you're standing at the doorway of something meaningful. Nobody feels fear when they stay small. Fear only shows up when your spirit is trying to grow beyond its current limits. There are many types of fear, but 3 of them keep most people trapped in the life they're trying to outgrow. The first is the fear of failure. This is the voice that convinces you it's better not to try than to try and fall short. But failure is not a dead end. It is a teacher. Every great person you admire has a trail of failures behind them. Failure is simply feedback. It is a mentor disguised as a mistake. The real tragedy is not falling. It is refusing to rise. The second is the fear of judgment. Human beings are social creatures, and nothing terrifies us more than the idea of being misunderstood, rejected, or criticized. But here's the truth. People will judge you, whether you stay average or pursue greatness. You might as well be judged for becoming who you were destined to become. No one who is doing better than you will ever judge you. Only those who are afraid to try will criticize the one who does. And the third is the fear of success. Most people don't talk about this, but it's real. Success requires responsibility. Success demands growth. Success forces you to let go of excuses and become someone capable of carrying bigger blessings. Many people say they want success, but deep down they fear they won't be able to maintain it. So they stay in the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. But here is the beautiful truth. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means choosing your future over your fear. Courage does not erase doubt. It moves despite doubt. Courage does not silence the trembling. It walks with trembling legs. Courage does not wait for confidence. Confidence is born through courageous acts repeated over time. You must stop seeing fear as a wall and begin seeing it as a doorway. Fear is the final guardian before the next version of you. It is the test that asks, how badly do you want the life you say you desire? If you only want it when it's comfortable, you will never reach it. But if you want it even when your hands shake and your voice trembles, then you are already stepping into your higher self. Fear only wins when you stop moving. Fear only wins when you choose safety over destiny. Fear only wins when you let your potential suffocate inside your comfort zone. So when fear rises, don't run from it. Walk toward it. Let fear be a compass. Let fear be confirmation. Let fear be the sign that you are no longer living in the smallness of who you used to be. Because the moment you step through fear, not around it, not over it, but through it, you discover something extraordinary. Fear was never a prison. It was simply the shadow cast by your future self, calling you forward. And once you walk through it, the old you loses its power, and the new you begins to rise. The courage to let go of the old version of you. There comes a turning point in every human life, where growth demands a price. And that price is the willingness to let go of who you used to be. This is not an easy task. In fact, it may be one of the most emotionally challenging experiences a person ever faces. Because before you step into your new life, you must confront the truth that your old life, the familiar one, the predictable one, the comfortable one, can no longer carry the weight of the future you desire. And letting go of that version of yourself feels like standing at the edge of a cliff with no guarantee of where your feet will land when you jump. Letting go is misunderstood. People talk about growth as if it's a purely positive, energetic, motivational process. But real growth, real transformation, requires grieving. It requires the death of habits that kept you safe, the release of identities that once gave you meaning, the shedding of routines that made you feel in control. Letting go means walking away from versions of yourself that served you at one time, but are now silently suffocating the person you are becoming. And that process is emotional. It's raw. It's vulnerable. Because you're not just letting go of habits. You're letting go of comfort. And comfort has a way of convincing you that it deserves to stay. You see, the old version of you is not your enemy. It's simply your history. It's the part of you that did the best it could with what you knew at the time. The part that protected you, survived for you, kept you together when life was overwhelming. And for that, you honor it. But honoring your past does not mean living inside it, because the same version of you that once helped you survive might now be the very barrier that stops you from thriving. Most people never evolve because they are loyal to the person they used to be. They stay loyal to old beliefs like, this is just who I am. This is how things have always been. I'm not good at change. I've always been this way. But these aren't truths. They are stories. Stories you've repeated so many times that they became your identity. And identity is powerful. Once you believe something about yourself, you will do everything in your power to protect that belief, even if it hurts your growth. That is why the courage to let go is so essential. You cannot build the future while holding on to the limitations of the past. Letting go means releasing the excuses that once felt justified. It means putting down the emotional armor that once kept you safe. It means acknowledging the ways you've been hiding behind your own narratives. Because the person you are meant to become requires a different mindset, a different environment, a different discipline, a different energy entirely. And the old you cannot deliver it. But here's something many people don't realize. Letting go isn't a single moment. It's a process. It begins with awareness, continues with decision, and solidifies through action. You let go by choosing differently, by thinking differently, by showing up in ways your old self never had the courage to. You let go every time you don't respond the way you used to. Every time you walk away from what drains you. Every time you choose healing instead of hurt. Every time you choose discipline instead of excuses. Every time you set a boundary your old self was too afraid to set. Letting go also creates space. Space for new dreams, new habits, new opportunities, new versions of yourself that you haven't even met yet. As long as your identity is packed with the old you, there is no room for the new you to breathe. Transformation cannot enter a heart that is already full of yesterday. The moment you release who you were, even slightly, life begins to send you whispers, signs, openings, small invitations to become more. And yes, it will feel lonely at times. Growth often requires separation before elevation. You may lose people who only knew how to love the previous version of you. You may walk away from environments that no longer match your future. You may outgrow conversations that once felt comfortable, but now feel limiting. This loneliness is not punishment. It is transition. It is the silence before the breakthrough. It is the clearing of the ground before the new foundation is built. Letting go is not betrayal. It is evolution. You are not abandoning your past. You are thanking it and then rising beyond it. Because inside you exists a greater version waiting to be born. A version with courage, clarity, power, purpose, conviction, and depth. And that version cannot come alive until you release the one holding the door shut. So embrace this truth with courage. You are allowed to outgrow who you were. You are allowed to rise beyond your patterns. You are allowed to become someone your past self would be proud of. And once you let go, once you loosen the grip on your old identity, your future self steps forward, smiles, and whispers, "Finally, I've been waiting for you." A transformation through persistence. There comes a moment in every journey when the world stops clapping, when progress seems invisible, and when every step forward feels like you're dragging your own body through mud. This is the phase where most people quit. Not because they aren't capable, not because their dream isn't worthy, but because persistence feels like walking through a storm with no promise of sunlight. Yet this exact phase, the silent, lonely, heavy phase, is where transformation is born. Persistence is not glamorous, it is not loud, it does not give you instant results. But persistence is the invisible engine that turns ordinary people into unstoppable forces. When you decide to persist, you make a declaration to life that you are not going to fold just because circumstances turned rough. Persistence is when your emotions scream, "Stop," Yet your purpose whispers, continue. It is when you show up even when the excitement is gone. Anyone can start when motivation is high, when applause is loud, when energy is overflowing. But persistence is proven when motivation fades. It is proven in the mornings when you wake up tired, discouraged, uncertain, but still choose to take one more step. That step, though small and quiet, is more powerful than every big step taken during easy times. Life often tests you with challenges not to break you, but to prepare you. Persistence shapes your character. It builds your inner armor. Every time you persist through something difficult, you gain a piece of yourself you didn't have before: discipline, resilience, emotional strength, clarity, courage. Without persistence, goals remain fantasies. With persistence, even impossible things slowly start to bend in your favor. Persistence isn't about being perfect. It's about refusing to surrender. One of the greatest truths is that progress is rarely visible in the beginning. You may work for weeks, months, even years with nothing to show. It feels unfair. It feels like your effort is disappearing into the air. But what you can't see is that underneath the surface, tiny shifts are happening. Your skills are sharpening. Your mindset is strengthening. Your habits are stabilizing. Your spirit is expanding. Just because results aren't visible doesn't mean they aren't forming. Persistence is what carries you through this invisible phase. Transformation happens gradually, silently, and then suddenly. You may feel stuck for a long time, and then one day, something changes, an opportunity arrives, a door opens, someone notices your effort, or your skill finally surpasses your own expectations. And in that moment, everything makes sense. All the tears, all the nights of doubt, all the days you forced yourself to keep going, they all add up. Persistence makes sure that when the breakthrough comes, you are ready to receive it. Think about anyone who ever achieved something meaningful. Athletes, creators, entrepreneurs, leaders. Their turning point did not come from talent alone. It came from persistence. They kept practicing after everyone went home. They kept working when no one believed in them. They continued even when they had every reason to quit. Persistence is a superpower disguised as a simple habit: keep going. But persistence also demands honesty. It asks you to stop looking for shortcuts. It forces you to confront your own excuses. It requires you to accept that progress is not supposed to feel easy. The moment you understand this, the journey becomes lighter. Not because the obstacles disappear, but because you stop fighting the reality that work takes time. Persistence frees you from the illusion of overnight success and connects you to the truth: greatness grows slowly and steadily. Every time you persist, you take control of your story. You tell your doubts they don't own you. You tell your fears they don't define you. You tell your failures they won't stop you. Persistence is the language of people who rise. It is the foundation of every transformation. Not luck, not timing, not talent. Persistence. And if you are in the middle of that difficult phase right now, where nothing seems to be changing, keep going. You are not stuck. You are forming. You are not failing. You are strengthening. You are not lost. You are being reshaped into someone capable of holding the success you are destined for. The breakthrough you want is on the other side of your persistence. Don't quit now. Rising into your greatest self. There comes a point in every journey where everything you've learned, everything you've endured, and everything you've fought for begins to shape you into someone entirely new. Step 5 is not about survival anymore. It is about rising. It is about stepping into the version of yourself that all your struggles prepared you for. This stage is where you stop looking at your past with regret and start seeing it as a foundation. It is where you understand that every scar is a lesson, every failure is fuel, and every setback was secretly guiding you toward your highest potential. Rising into your greatest self is not an event, it is a mindset, a decision, a daily commitment to be more than your circumstances. Rising begins the moment you recognize your own power. So many people underestimate themselves because they have lived too long with doubt, criticism, or environments that made them feel small. But the truth is, you are capable of far more than you've allowed yourself to believe. There is strength in you that hasn't been used, courage in you that hasn't been expressed, and potential in you that hasn't been unlocked. Rising is the act of finally meeting that version of yourself, the one who knows what they want, who stands firm in their purpose, who doesn't apologize for dreaming big. But rising doesn't mean you suddenly become fearless. It means you stop letting fear control your direction. Fear will always exist. Doubt will always whisper. Uncertainty will always linger. But your greatest self rises not in the absence of fear, but in defiance of it. You rise by choosing action over hesitation, purpose over comfort, growth over stagnation. You rise by refusing to settle for good enough when you know greatness is calling your name. This stage is also about redefining what you believe you deserve. Many people carry silent limits, invisible ceilings built by society, family expectations, past failures, or their own insecurities. Rising into your greatest self means breaking every one of those ceilings. It means understanding that you are worthy of success, love, peace, abundance, and fulfillment. It means no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. It means walking into rooms with the confidence that you belong, not because you are perfect, but because you worked to become someone who deserves to be there. As you rise, something beautiful happens. The things that once felt heavy begin to feel lighter. The challenges that used to overwhelm you now feel manageable. The doubts that controlled you begin to fade. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You develop emotional stamina, mental clarity, and spiritual maturity. You learn to trust yourself, truly trust yourself, and that trust becomes your anchor in every storm. Rising is not about avoiding difficulties. It's about becoming the kind of person who faces difficulties with grace and confidence. And rising isn't only about what you achieve. It's about who you become along the way. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Your choices become intentional. Your habits become disciplined. Your vision becomes clearer. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with your purpose. You stop allowing negativity to drain your energy. You begin protecting your peace, valuing your growth, and surrounding yourself with people who nourish your ambition instead of sabotaging it. Then comes the moment where you realize you are no longer the person who once struggled to believe in themselves. You are no longer the person who felt lost. You are no longer the one who doubted every step. You have transformed quietly, but powerfully. You rose through your pain, through your failures, through your fears. And now, you are rising into your destiny. But remember, this rising is not something you do once. It is something you reaffirm every day. Every morning you wake up, you have a choice. Rise or retreat. Rise into your power or fall back into doubt. Rise into your purpose or hide behind excuses. Rise into the person you're meant to be or remain the person you've outgrown. Your greatest self is always one decision away. It's time to step forward. It's time to claim your place. It's time to rise without hesitation, without apology, without fear. Everything you've endured has prepared you for this moment. Everything you've learned has strengthened you for this transformation. The world is waiting for your greatness. Your story is not over. It's just beginning. Rise now, and don't look back.